Portugal, round 2 on the European Rallycross Championship Trail, and here in Lousada up in the northwest of Portugal, some classic old Portuguese architecture and a pretty classic way of life as well. Some grand buildings, but out in the countryside, the agriculture is as it has been for many hundreds of years. This is a region of Portugal now being discovered by the tourists who will encounter beautiful buildings, as I said before, like this basilica, and the landscape gardens and the winding cobbled streets of Penafiel. Further south and out into the countryside, the confluence of two very important rivers for the region, the River Douro and the River Tamega, being used for years for shipping port out of the region to the rest of the world. And for the Rallycross boys, this is where it's all happening. The Euro circuit of Lousada, 910 meters long, just under a kilometer. It's 50% loose and 50% tarmac. These pictures from round 1 in Austria, where the drivers had a lot to say about the circuit conditions and the safety there. They also had a lot to say about each other. For example, take a look at this Division 1A final. In the lead, the Lancer of Opland being chased by the escort of Hunsbet. Behind them, we've got the two Toyotas of Gunter Svan and Ingvar Carlsson, and also the other Mitsubishi of Jos Kuipers. It was on the final lap that Hunsbet made this move, pushing Opland out of the way, moving into first place, until the stewards accepted the appeal of Opland, who ended up at the top of the leaderboard, with Hunsbet down in 6th place.
I take the start and leading 4 laps, and then Ludwig pushed me away very hard, as you see in the television. And I go to the jury and protest, and they accept the protest. So we drive for the championship, so they want to be hard. It's a very good car, a very strong car, very good feeling to drive the car. So I think the car is built to race. This is a race car. And this year I think Ludwig Hunsbet, Ingvar Carlsson, Gunter Svan, Bernd Lehnemann, you have Jos Kuipers, Henning Solberg, you have 10, 12 can take the championship. So they want to be very, very hard this year.
And it's going to be hard in this Division 1 qualifier. Opland in the Lancer on the left of your screen, alongside him Hunsbet in the escort. They get away, a bit of wheel spin from Kuipers in the other Lancer, and then we've got Salstrom and Verkoya on the right, but it's Opland into the first right-hander in the lead, and that's important because they immediately go onto the loose. 50% loose, 50% tarmac. The circuit keeps going round to the right. We're on board with Opland. And he really does seem to have the measure of this circuit. He's pulling away now from Hunsbet. Hunsbet catches him up a little bit on braking there. Then behind them we've got Salstrom in 3rd place, Verkoyen in 4th place, and that's Kuipers bringing up the rear after the wheel spin off the start line. Good circuit, there's the drivers like it. Oh, and Hunsbet doesn't like it. He's just rolled it, and do you know, that's exactly the same corner that he rolled it on. My heavens, he's driving off again. I don't believe it. He rolled in the same place last year, and Hunsbet, very bent, rejoins the race. I wonder how long he's going to be able to keep going. So that leaves Opland now well out in front, but very spectacular stuff from Hunsbet with a very bent escort. And yeah, she's moving into the pits now, and he gets a round of applause for entertainment value. Have a look at it again. He just clipped the inside of the banking there, and that was enough to send his escort rolling side over side and almost end after end. And this is the most incredible thing, because he just puts it into gear and drives away again. Very bent, but still mobile. Meanwhile, the race continues. Opland is out in front now, leading by a big margin, but look at that. Verkoyen goes really wide and allows 4th place Kuipers to move into 3rd place now. But clean and clear out in front, driving the immaculate Mitsubishi Lancer, is Evan Opland. But I tell you what, we've got the escort of Lance Salstrom not that far behind, and look at the ground that's been made up by Jos Kuipers, with Rud Verkoyen, one of the two Verkoyen brothers, having another go on the inside in the sunny GTIR. We're on board now with Opland giving us a guided tour to this circuit, the big, long left-hander, then onto the loose, leading up to this really tight hairpin, which brings him back onto the start-finish straight. You can see the grid just behind them there. So it's Opland passing that point for the final lap, and he goes on to win. Now we turn our attentions to the big boys, Division 2, and they don't come bigger than the Audi of Tommy Christopherson.
Yeah, we don't know exactly, but it looks like it will blow the engine. It looks like a piston, or we are not quite sure about. We will check it, but it looks that it's over for this weekend.
What about next weekend, France?
I think it should be no problem, because I have a spare engine in my old car from last year, and also I'm waiting for an engine. I wait for a long time now for an engine who is running in a dyno in Norway, so it was meant that I should have the new engine for this weekend, but we had to wait a long time, and now we was trying with the old engine from last year, so. And it wasn't a good choice that we see for the moment.
It was going very well, though, just before it blew.
It works very good, actually, and I saw some papers from the first time I was actually faster, so it was quite a mess that it was not working. The car suits very good to the track, and I like it very much in Portugal, so it's a big disappointed, actually.
So no Kristoffersson in Portugal, but back in Austria for round one, it was a very different story. In this Division 2A final, it was all happening. A brilliant second row start by Jean-Luc Payet, and a very sad broken prop shaft for Skogstad. Payet in the lead, Eklund in second place. Gollop here in third place, but he was to suffer a puncture. Unfortunate for him, Hansen in fourth place, and Kristoffersson bringing up the rear. So the Division 2 leaderboard looks like this, with, of course, the on-form Frenchman in the lead, and Austria was good for Per Eklund too.
Yes, Austria was very good, and today here in the time practice now I was quicker, so not too bad for all men.
Car's going very well. Are there any changes since last season?
Not, it's the same, it's a new car, and it's the same parts, but I have changed a lot of details. I have moved a lot of weight back, and I have dropped the engine and driving position, and I managed to coming down to the weight limit, and this is the big improvement, I think. Plus a big rear wing, some help lot.
You went through a lot of engines last year, I believe. Is that problem solved?
I hope so. But you must always test. It's the hard way in the life.
Was it always the same problem or different?
No, we learn. I mean, it was the first season with the Impreza, and with this big horsepower on the standard engine. The engine is made for 150 horsepower, and you take out 600 horsepower. You must have problem.
So we hope no problems here then for this Division 2 qualifier. Eklund gets away, but Jean-Luc Payet has actually parked his car on the grid. Eklund on the left, the black Audi of Sune Andersson, the veteran Swede, who gets into that right-hander first. And Eklund will be pushing him hard on the back there. Behind him was Camille Verrieken, the Belgian driver in the Escort. He was 17th in last year's championship. And Eklund trying everything, but the superior power of the Audi will certainly give him better straight line speed. But Eklund in the Clarion Subaru Impreza is hanging on like a limpet to the back of Sune Andersson. Tries to find a way through there, but Andersson commanding the best line. And there you get a good look back at the whole of this circuit, which really is special to the drivers and popular with the spectators too. Sune Andersson blows it. I don't know what he did there. He went very wide and maybe missed a gear, but you can see he's put down all the power as he swings from the left to the right. And Eklund looking around down inside the cockpit here. I wonder if he's got a problem as they come down the hill. He's still in contention. Sune Andersson out in front. Third place, Camille Verrieken. And you can see Jean-Luc Payet has regained that position after that appalling start. So Eklund still in contention, chasing Sune Andersson. But he's looking all around him now, and he doesn't look comfortable. The Subaru Impreza, I think, has got a problem. He's still got power, but look at him looking over his right shoulder there. Fantastic onboard shots, and Andersson disappears into the distance. So problems for Eklund, almost prophetic in the interview before the race. Meanwhile, Payet putting major pressure on Verrieken, and he goes through. So Payet recovering from an appalling start where he obviously stalled it on the start line. He's now got to contend with Eklund, who is very slow, but he gets the right line, does Payet, and doesn't let Verrieken through. Payet goes through, Verrieken goes past Eklund, and it's going to be a disappointed Swede who moves into the pits to find out what has gone wrong once again. So it's all happening here in Portugal as we move on to a second Division 2 qualifier. And if anybody can make it happen, it's Skanker on the left there in the Escort, being challenged by Barry Squibb, who's actually in a Will Gollop sandwich as they come round three abreast before they go onto the loose there. Skanker actually maintains the advantage, and Squibb is being very aggressive. But we don't know what happened to Gollop. He's a little bit slow now. He started to gain on braking there, but maybe he missed a gear or just got it slightly wrong, going a bit wide there. A brand new engine has Will Gollop, producing 610 brake horsepower, ironing out one or two early season problems with it, and he's now starting to challenge Barry Squibb as Skanka finds his stride and pulls away from those two, quite clearly showing why he loves this circuit. Although, having said that, Skanka has been here 4 times before and rolled his car twice, so he hasn't got that many happy memories. As Gollop pushes Squibb wide and moves through. Gollop seems to have come on to song now, and although Skanka is way ahead and clear and clean, driving superbly, taking the checkered flag, but has Gollop managed to keep off Squibb? And yes, as they come round the final bend, it's Will Gollop accelerating across the finish line to take second, Barry Squibb third. As they come onto the start-finish straight, as Kuiper's got it, brilliant acceleration up to the line, and it's difficult to see, but the result just goes to Kuiper's by a hair's breadth.
It's a little bit different if you compare rally to rallycross. In rally you have the time and you are alone on the special states, and you go fast as possible. Here you have to think about other competitors, try to block them if they are close behind. That is a little bit I have to learn, and also to make a very good start. That is very important. Today the start has been working, but the first race was not so good, so maybe it takes some race before it's 100% good.
Are you enjoying it more than rally?
It's 2 different things. I like the competition between cars, so I think in the future it will be very good for me.
It seems to be going okay for him. Let's have a look at the Division 1 second qualifying heat, 4 laps. We've got Opland in his Lancer, and alongside him on the grid we've got Saelstrom, then Jan Becker, Gunter Svan and Henning Solberg. And it's Jan Becker who gets the best start from that middle position. He gets the prime line into that first right-hander. Jan Becker in the Nissan Sunny GTI-R, the German driver, racing in his first European Championship season and showing them a clean pair of heels. But it's the Toyota of Gunter Svan who's actually gained a lot on braking there. And then Saelstrom and Opland having a good little tussle with Solberg, bringing up the rear. Lucky we're not yellow blind this season. All the cars seem to be painted the same colour. But out in front, it is Becker. Gunter Svan making a move. The Celica team beautifully prepared, and he's going through just on the inside. A dream manoeuvre by Gunter Svan, the ex-cross-country ski racer. And we've lost Solberg, who has flipped on the back part of the circuit. Look quite carefully here and you'll see him well and truly airborne. There he goes, in exactly the same place as Hunsbeth, but a lot higher and a lot more damage. No way he's going to drive away from that. Once again, in these European events, they don't seem to think that a crash like that is worth red flagging it, but that's not going to worry Gunter Svan in the Toyota as he goes on to take the checkered flag. So this young man being asked what happened. It's his first season. He said, I was having a go with Opland and I just couldn't see anything. Division 2, third qualifying heats. Hansen in the ZX on the left. Skogstad alongside him in the Escort. A brilliant start by Martin Iversen, who I think has got the measure of Hansen. And whoa, Hansen had the measure of him. Took off a bit of bodywork mutually between them, and Skogstad is in third place. So a brilliant start as Martin Iversen heads off down the hill. Hansen closes on braking. The ZX going very well. Citroen's really coming on form in Rallycross now after the old days of Jean-Luc Payet and his old BX. And as I say that, the ZX starts to power away into this sharp right-hander as we rejoin the start-finish straight, and through the dust we can see that the red flag has been waved. So we can only assume that maybe it was a false start, and we go for a restart. So the restart, and Iversen trying to emulate his first start, but he doesn't get quite such a good start. Skogstad gets the best of him, and my word, more bodywork being knocked off Kenneth Hansen's ZX. So it's Skogstad from Martin Iversen, from Hansen. The trio up there in front. Skogstad now starting to pull away from the others. And then we've got Sune Andersen in fourth place, and Bert Van Rooij in the Nissan, the Dutchman, bringing up the rear. It seems as if Kenneth Hansen has to sort of get himself into the swing of things. Mind you, Sune Andersen going very wide in the background there before he can make a challenge, but he makes his challenge now and moves very smoothly in front of Martin Iversen. Martin Iversen not really prepared for that, I don't think, but look how far in front Skogstad is as he rolls down the hill. Kenneth Hansen gains a bit on braking, and Martin Iversen trying to catch last year's champion Kenneth Hansen in the ZX. So it really is close between Skogstad and Hansen now. And these three have pulled well clear of the rest of the field. Hansen looking to the left, looking to the right. Completely different driving techniques on the loose, these two drivers. And they came together at the top of the hill there. You could hear the crowd roar, and that was to Skogstad's benefit. He got the best out of that little collision. But Hansen is pulling back again now. He's closed the gap. One wheel off the ground. Iversen can't do anything about these two. Hansen taking a look to the left, look to the right. Is he going to get through on the inside? No, the door's closed by Skogstad. Perseverance by Hansen, look, and he pushes through. He's got the acceleration now and swings into the front of Skogstad. The crowd love that. Skogstad doesn't. He has another go, but nearly puts himself off the circuit. So Hansen now has the benefit of the lead on the loose, and he's certainly driving faster on the loose than Skogstad. And as they come down to the corner at the bottom of the hill, you can see that Hansen has now started to pull clearly away from Skogstad. Iversen still in third place. Now Iversen has started to close on Skogstad, and Hansen is showing them that if he had that little bit of a buffer out in front in the earlier stages of this qualifying heat, he wouldn't have had so much body damage. And he takes the checkered flag. Exciting racing, the crowd loving it. Skogstad second, Martin Iversen in third.
Yeah, qualifying was good. First heat was with Will, Barry and me, and it was very close up to the first corner. I get out, or I had the inside line, so I got out, and it was a very good time. 4.4 seconds faster than anybody else in 4 laps. That is light-ish. Second, I was out with Barry again, actually, and I did a mistake. He very nicely took use of that. Even had the wrong gears, I hadn't got any umph going up the hill. And he passed me nicely on the inside. I slotted behind him. And I learned a lot of new lines I hadn't known before. And I eat a lot of dust. So in the end I thought, right, I know Barry's a very fair man, so I gave him a shot. Finted on the inside, he shut the door, I went for the outside. He let me, maybe he thought that I starved out there, but I didn't. So when I got loose, then we just about made 2 fastest times, and thereby the pole position, actually.
So why is he actually going to compete in this Division 2 third heat? We don't know. He's nearest the camera. Gollop is alongside him, Squibb alongside him. Jean-Luc Payet gets a much better start this time. A brilliant start. Can he keep off Skanka? He goes round on the outside. Skanka's got the best line, but Payet, I think, and Skanka's got Squibb on the inside too. So Squibb's in the lead, and Skanka's in second. We're on board with Jean-Luc Payet, making a challenge. Brilliant driving by the Frenchman, and Skanka now being challenged by Will Gollop. But the Xantia of the Frenchman really proving a force to be reckoned with this season. And bringing up the rear, we've got Camille Verrieken. Skanka going a little bit wide, just touches the bank there. That was a dodgy move by Skanka, trying to get inside Payet. And Payet goes wide. Skanka almost stops. He's got bodywork hanging off, but Payet still in second place. And a very controlled race by Barry Squibb. Payet now depending on that acceleration of the Xantia, but Squibb has got him well sussed, keeping his eye on his rear view mirrors and keeping the right line to keep Payet at bay. Skanka can't do anything about it either. He's in third place. Will Gollop almost stopped when Skanka made his mistake earlier on, but he's making a bit of a comeback too. But here's the battle for first place. We're on board with Jean-Luc Payet. Verrieken, incidentally, Camille Verrieken is up the rear, and Skanka's done it! Where he touched it, the crowd are going mad. Where he touched that bank just a lap before, he rolls the car, he ruins Will Gollop's chances as well, and he didn't even have to race in this third qualifying heat for Division 2. He will be furious. No way he can rebuild his car ready for the A final. He'd already qualified for it. That's very unskankerish. Meanwhile, the race is still going on. Jean-Luc Payet on three wheels makes his final challenge to get in front of Squibb. Has he done it? Squibb has still got the best line. Has he got the best nerve as he hangs onto it and Squibb goes through? Brilliant driving by Squibb. A disconsolate Gollop, who was balked by Skanka 2 or 3 times going around there. Jean-Luc Payet, though, not giving up. So here they are. They haven't red flagged the race one more time, but that's good news for us, really. And Jean-Luc Payet sort of swung it out into a big drift to try and get it round sideways and then get on the inside of Squibb, but he doesn't make it. Tremendous acceleration, though. Squibb driving an immaculate race, but the Frenchman now making a final last challenge. The crowd cheering him on. It really is exciting stuff down the hill. Such a fast circuit. This, as I said earlier, about 120, something like that, and then hard on the brakes. Beautifully prepared, good safety barriers all the way around here. Nice, smooth, loose, so the drivers can really get to grips with the business of competing and putting on good rallycross racing. And he does it one more time. He loves that manoeuvre. It's sort of rally raid type driving there from Jean-Luc Payet. But the checkered flag goes to Squibb. Payet in second place. And this is the problem that put out Skanka. He really did roll it, just going a little bit too wide. Shows how fast these cars are going. And unfortunately for Skanka, he has got a broken gearbox, smashed wide open with oil all over the circuit, and that means he certainly will not be able to compete the rest of this meeting.
The Volvo European Tour, every week on Eurosport. It's Ryder Cup year, and the battle is on for the right to wear that European jersey. There's a new showdown every week as the stars of golf trek around Europe. This programme is brought to you on Eurosport by Volvo and Arnold Palmer Golf Equipment. Quality assured by the King himself.
After the Italian Open, golf and live coverage of the International Open from Plymouth this afternoon, 4:30 p.m. on Eurosport. With Pole Position, Eurosport takes you right to the front of the grid to find out just what's happening at the Grand Prix. John Watson joins Ben Edwards at the trackside to tell you who's doing what and why in the Formula One World Championship. Pole Position, Friday and Saturday at 6:30 p.m. and 11 p.m. on Eurosport. Eurosport and Isostar offer you the chance to win a weekend in Paros, Greece at the Windsurfing World Cup. Also to be won, Grundig Sun and Sound glasses and Isostar sports sets. To play and win, call the Eurosport hotline now. Eurosport and Isostar wish you good luck.
Welcome back to a buzzing Lousada Rallycross Euro circuit here, where we move into the B final Division 2. On the left is Martin Iversen, on the right is Jean-Luc Payet in the Xantia, and getting all that power down is a bit of a problem as he nearly gets pushed out of it by Martin Iversen. He goes to the left, goes to the right, pushes Iversen wide. Now has Payet got through? On the loose, he really is formidable, and he has gone through. And on the inside, that's Sune Andersen, who's picked up the pieces, and he's picked up second place as well, leaving Martin Iversen back in third place. Camille Verrieken in fourth place. Let's have a look at this start again. He cut right across in front of Iversen. Iversen pushed him. Jean-Luc Payet managed to recover brilliantly. So now Sune Andersen has got second place, the best position he's had here this weekend in the awesome Audi. Reputed to lay down, if possible, something like 800 brake horsepower, usually unmanageable, but here today, the veteran Swede, Sune Andersen, hanging on to a good second place. Jean-Luc Payet, when he's given his head, is really uncatchable, pulling away from the rest of the field. He really needs to win this race to get into the A final, and that's not going to be taken away from him by anybody. Magnificent driving technique, you can see there on the loose, as I said earlier, and of course the crowd love to see it as well. He works back Citroën, and you can see how much work he has to put in the cockpit, but the suspension of the Citroën ideally suited to the changing terrain from loose to tarmac and back again, and on a hilly circuit like this as well, the suspension actually eliminates a lot of the problems of laying down the power and picking it up again on braking, and it maximizes the braking as well. Anyway, back to Martin Iversen now, who is challenging Sune Andersen, and Andersen looking in his rear view mirrors. Iversen a little bit twitchy, I think, after that contretemps with Jean-Luc Payet in the initial stages. Payet has forgotten it. Iversen hasn't. He moves through, loses a bit of bodywork, but gains a place in front of Sune Andersen and takes his escort through into second place. Well, breathing rarefied air out in front is Jean-Luc Payet, and the crowd enjoying the battle between Andersen and Martin Iversen. Halfway through the race now, bodywork hanging off Iversen, and I think a bit of that's rubbing on his left side front. We haven't had any problems here this weekend with punctures at all, which is absolutely the opposite to what happened back in Austria in the first round. But there could be a little bit of a problem there for Iversen, who knows. Sune Andersen then, who had second place for the first couple of laps here, is now trying to pull back onto Iversen, and Jean-Luc Payet is almost guaranteed. I shouldn't say that, it would be the kiss of death, wouldn't it? In fact, he's almost to the point where he can see some of the back markers now at the circuit in front of him. So Martin Iversen tenuously hanging on to second place at the moment. Had a year off from Rallycross last year and is back now and having his work really cut out with the challenge from Sune Andersen, who tries to go through on the right-hand side. Smoke pouring off that front, pouring off both fronts when he brakes, and Andersen just bullies his way past Iversen, who's driving the car his father drove in the championship last year, and he'll be delivering it back just a little bit dented. On the final lap now, magnificently free of any of that aggravation after early aggravation in this B final, is Jean-Luc Payet in the work-supported Xantia, really showing how strong Citroën are across the range this season, and certainly a challenge to be reckoned with. Payet goes through into the A final. Anderson in second place, and you can see just how far behind he is. And bruised and battered Martin Iversen takes his car back for a bit of a body rebuild. So the Division 1 B final about to get underway, and we've got 2 Germans, 2 Dutch on the front 2 rows of the grid, a staggered grid for these B finals. That's Ruud Verkooyen. Behind him is his brother Nellis Verkooyen. And alongside them, Bernd Leinemann, who's the highest place from last year here, because Richard Hutton, last year's champion, isn't racing in this year's championship. The green flag runs across. The crowd are starting to cheer. Tremendous participation from the crowd here, but the starter still won't let them go, and one of the Verkooyens, that's Ruud Verkooyen, just crept forward, so they're having trouble getting this Division 1B final away. Right, let's have another go. The engine levels go up, the crowd level goes up, the adrenaline level goes up, and they get away cleanly this time for the Division 1B final in the second round of the European Championship. And a great start by the young German Jan Becker in his Nissan Sunny GT-IR. There are 3 Nissans and 1 Escort in this one. At the moment, it's Nissans that are winning. So important to get into that first right-hander. And onto the loose in front, and getting a little friendly or not so friendly shove from the Dutchman is Jan Becker, but he hangs on there, grits his teeth, and he's in the right position for the left-hander, sneaking up on the inside. We've got Bernd Leinemann, the highest placed from last year, competing in this year's championship. And of course there is no point in having a second place here. That's why they're really getting hammer and tongs with each other at the moment. You have to win to go through to the A final. That's what makes the sport of rallycross so exciting. And then bringing up the rear effectively, we've got 2 guys who are well out of contention now. One in the Subaru Impreza, Jacques Franssen, and the Renault Clio Williams of Alberto Tomba. That's Tombo, not Tomba, the ski racer. So 6 laps in these finals, and we can see Ruud Verkooyen starting to close down on these front 2. And their battle, if anything, had slowed them down a little bit. There's not even very much between the 2 brothers, but it's still Jan Becker. Terribly difficult to concentrate when you know you're constantly being pushed at from behind. But then, on the other hand, the drivers who are behind have the problem of dust to contend with. There's a lot of talk about dust in the rallycross world at the moment. Some of the circuits that aren't as well prepared as this circuit in Lousada are talking about maybe applying a certain mix of resin to the surface to keep the dust down. And then a lot of people say, well, that will spoil the feel of the event, and a lot of the spectators like to go home a different colour to the colour they arrived, as they very often do. So he's gone very wide now, Bernd Leinemann, and he really has lost any chance of getting past Jan Becker, who is controlling this race from the front. The question we now ask is, has Ruud Verkooyen got the legs enough to catch Bernd Leinemann up and get himself the points that a second position would get him? Of course, only the winner, as I said earlier, will go through to the A final, but positions are important for points as far as the championship is concerned. Bernd Leinemann seems to have recovered a little bit now, and is once again in a challenging position. It's as if he loses concentration from time to time, and then regroups, gets a bit of strength, and moves in. So we're on to the last corner, and Leinemann making a last-ditch attempt to get past, but he doesn't, as we get a rather limp checkered flag from our Finnish judge here. And so the results confirmed with Jan Becker in the lead there, Bernd Leinemann second. Ruud Verkooyen just beat his brother into 3rd place. Jacques Franssen 5th, and Alberto Tombo in 6th. So the start of the 1400cc Division 3 A final. Current champion right on the back row of the grid there in the red car, Susan Bergvall. Up the front we've got Jose Borges, Manfred Beck and Etienne van der Branden. And she made an immensely false start there. That's the only way to describe it, and got herself and everyone else into a lot of trouble, and I'm sure this is going to be red flagged. Well, regular visitors to Rallycross will know these 2 characters, Johnny Loix and Eddie Laumans. The Well-known rallycross photographers having a chat with Susan Bergvall, well dented after her false start earlier on in this Division 3A final. And here we see the replay. She started a long time ahead of everybody else and ended up ramming him up the backsides.
Look what I get here for you from Austria.
From Austria, yes. I remember that place, I do.
It looked maybe a little bit terrible for you, but...
Well, it's not one of my favorite moments, I can assure you.
Yeah, I remember that, yes.
It was actually quite scary at one point, but okay.
Yeah,
it's a risk you have to take when you are in this. But it's a strange feeling seeing it on pictures like this.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, well, for the photographer, we stand in a good position, so we take the pictures. So that's the main point. So.
I didn't actually believe I was so high up in the air. It felt closer to the ground when I did it, but.
The highest, or you can see the highest one is over here.
Yes.
So you can see the roof of the other car. So it was quite very high.
It happened so quickly, so.
Yeah. It's only with the picture, it's only 3 seconds.
Yeah.
So.
For a start, I grabbed the steering wheel very hard, but for the last turn in the air, I let it go and kept my hands to the face instead. I thought this was my last moment, but okay. It took a week to repair myself inside, but now I feel better again.
Yeah, I understand that.
So the start still being held up as we await the arrival of the current champion, Susan Bergvall, who reassumes her position on the back row of the grid for this Division 3 1400cc A final. So the front row of the grid, Etienne van der Branden on the left. In the middle is local driver Borges. On the right is Manfred Beck, the Austrian, as they get away at last, we hope, with all fingers crossed. And Kokassa pushing through, trying to make an impression on the left-hand side. Well, he's made a big impression there as José Borg, the Portuguese driver, nearly takes out one of the cameramen on the inside corner, and into the lead goes Etienne van der Branden, and that's Kokassa, the Dutchman who's doing so well this season. And then the third place car there, and you can see how far away they are from the rest of the field, is local driver Luis Almeida in the Toyota Starlet. Etienne van der Branden way out in front, and once again the Toyota Starlet is just pushing and shoving and sniffing to the left and sniffing to the right, trying to get past the AX of Kokassa. So he's going to have another go, I think, at the same point as he did last time. Swings out, it's hardly any slipstream in this sort of speed, but it's the same sort of manoeuvre. And then he looks on the inside again, all the dust comes up, and Kokassa still hangs on to it. The good thing about these small classes, they're cheap to enter, cheap to run, and still provide exciting entertainment. He's trying it on the outside now, but I think Kokassa's got the measure of him, or has he? Yes, he has. I think the AX has probably got a little bit better acceleration on the tarmac, and Kokassa hangs on to his second place. The other important thing about this small divisions in any motorsport really, but especially in rallycross, it does give sponsors an opportunity to emblazon their names on cars without having to dig into their pockets for major amounts of budget, and that introduces new people on every side of the fence to the sport. So the battle's still going on for second place. Etienne van der Branden way out in front, really untouched, and controlling this from the front. And if he comes round this last corner now, guaranteed of the checkered flag, to push the car across at this stage, and I think Kokassa has got the measure of that too. A good second place, good second and third battle throughout this Division 3 A final. Well, confirmation of those results then. Eddie van den Branden out in front, Kokasa second, Luis Almeida third, Pavel Novotny took fourth and Manfred Beck fifth. The champion, Susan Bovel, ended up down in seventh. How does that affect the standings then after round two? Kokasa in the lead with 32 points ahead of Etienne van den Branden, Manfred Beck in third place, Sven Seliga in fourth place and Pavel Novotny in fifth.
Formula One on Eurosport.
Welcome back to Lousada in Portugal, where the big Division 1 A final is about to get underway. On the front row we've got Ivan Opland, alongside him Ingvar Carlsson in the Toyota, Jos Kuipers in the middle of your picture there in the other Toyota of Gunde Svan, and a brilliant start by Jos Kuipers. Wow, he's out-dragged the front two men, and he's even got inside the Toyota Celica. Driving and superb reactions from the Dutchman Jos Kuipers as they all kick up the dust and head off after his heels. So Jos Kuipers from Opland, from Carlsson, from Sölstrom, from Becker, and Gunde Svan bringing up the rear after a not so good start. Going very wide was Opland in an attempt to keep some speed up there. And in the commentary booth here, we've just commented that there's only one Ford in this A final, and that is really quite an extraordinary state of affairs. It's Mitsubishi Lancer, from Toyota Celica, from Escort, from Nissan, from Toyota. So quite a mix-up in the rallycross scene. I was going to say so far this season, but certainly here in Portugal. And Jos Kuipers really showing, even Opland, what a good bit of consistent driving is all about. Oh, and he just touches the curb there. And I think that's the first time we've seen one of the cars do that. They've done it on the loose bits and pieces. They haven't done it on the tarmac. And he's just clipping the curb, and it was a lot higher than he thought it would be. Mind you, Jos Kuipers should know the sort of curbs that he'd be used to driving around at Zandvoort circuit. They're high too, and they would give you a good shove. So we're on board with Carlsson. The dust starting to kick up as the weekend progresses, although it's been quite regularly watered. And Opland now back in contention and starting to look for a way past. And this means that Kuipers will be having one eye on his rearview mirror all the time, won't be able to concentrate quite as hard on the line, and with any luck Opland might be able to put on enough pressure to force an error from him. As they accelerate up towards the line, there's all sorts of swinging to the left and swinging to the right, bluffing and double bluffing going on, but none of it's worked at the moment. Still on board with Carlsson, who's in third place. And the highly professionally run and turned out Toyota Celica team, looking for consistency and looking to find a little bit of extra power there. Look at this Opland with his Lancer right on the tail now. Almost up the aerofoil of Jos Kuipers. One little error and Kuipers knows he'll be snapped up. And the battle between the two of them has allowed Carlsson in his Toyota to close the gap just a fraction. Kuipers, Opland, Carlsson. Kuipers having a good day, Carlsson having a good day, and Opland determined to make sure he has a good day if he possibly can. They reckon 10 to 12,000 spectators here, and you can see them absolutely swarming over that bank there, which is a tremendous viewing, natural viewpoint. And we're just coming on to the last lap. Now then, Opland has been saving everything for this, I am sure. He's right in there. Oh, Kuipers just pushed it a fraction too hard around there. He couldn't handle the pressure that Opland put on him, and look at this. It looks like some of that fairground demonstration driving. He just holds on to it and it hasn't dented the car, but has certainly dented his pride. As Opland goes through, Carlsen's in second place, and Jos Kuipers will remember that. He'll rejoin it, but he'll remember that for a long, long time. It just shows how that little bit of extra pressure that Opland put on him as they came into that last lap paid off. So Opland takes the checkered flag. Carlsen takes it for Toyota in second place, and the crowd give them a tremendous round of applause for some exciting rallycross. Amazingly enough, Jos Kuipers ended up in third place despite his demonstration driving. Lars Salzström fourth, Gunde Svan with the other Toyota in fifth, and Jan Becker in sixth place. So, 2 outings and 2 wins for Eivind Opland in the Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution. A total of 40 points out in the lead. Ingvar Carlsen second. Gunde Svan and Jos Kuipers are tied for third. Lars Salzström fifth. Jan Becker sixth. But let's remember this incident. Just 1 lap to go. Jos Kuipers out in front. This is where Opland really started to put the pressure on him. And he just clipped that curb again. We saw him do something similar a little earlier on the other side. He was up on 2 wheels, and Opland thought it was a wonderful bit of driving. Well, with thunderstorms on the horizon, I tell you there are a few thunder strikes and lightning bolts that are about to take place in our Division 2A final, that's for sure. You can see some damage on the front of Will Gollop's car there, and that's because he came together with Skanka. Well, Skanka came together with nearly everyone else as well. Wrote his car off completely and has now had to abandon pole, won't be racing a broken gearbox. Hansen is sitting on what is now effectively pole in his Citroën ZX. Gollop's on the second row, alongside him is Skogstad. Squibb and Jean-Luc Payet are on the back row. They've all put in tremendous performances at some stage today. They wouldn't be here otherwise, would they? Well, we're all hoping that the rain will keep away for this A final. Skogstad trying to stay cool, both physically and mentally. He must be going through in his mind the bad luck he had in Austria in the first round. He was on the front row in Austria and pulled away, did about 25 yards and then ended up breaking his prop shaft. Closes his door, the girls clear the grid, the crowd sit down in expectation, the engines rev, and we're ready for our Division 2 of the A final of the second round of the European Championship Rallycross season. Hansen has been starting well, and he does so once again. He cuts right across in front of Skogstad, and Hansen actually goes virtually straight on as they go onto the loose. It's Skogstad who leads in there. Barry Squibb making a big challenge on the inside from the back row of the grid, but Will Gollop in front of him. So it's Skogstad, Hansen, Gollop, Squibb, and then Jean-Luc Payet, believe it or not, is right at the back with his Xantia. It does seem that he's taken a little bit of time to settle down today. But that was a brilliant bit of starting, and Skogstad just touched the inside of that bank and went up onto 2 wheels. And Hansen is now putting on the pressure as they slow down for the hairpin and come round onto the start-finish straight. You can expect a big roar from the crowd as Skogstad lays down that power, accelerates along the start-finish straight, and in hot pursuit, we've got Will Gollop starting to challenge Hansen now. Will Gollop really pleased with the new engine in his Peugeot 306 this year. He's been developing it for G-Tech. He says he's going to make it available to other customers once he's managed to sort it out and refine it a bit, and my word, it seems to have plenty of power to hand on his right foot right now. They've all closed up at the front runners now. Skogstad, bits of bodywork hanging off, but nothing too serious. But Hansen now making a very serious move on Skogstad. Skogstad anticipates that beautifully, just pulls out wide, blocks the door for Hansen. Skogstad under tremendous pressure, but he's not relinquishing that front place at all. And he's keeping an eye on Hansen and the ZX. Meanwhile, Gollop having to contend with quite a lot of dust. Barry Squibb and Jean-Luc Payet really sort of marking time at the back there. I'm amazed Payet hasn't made more of an impression. And it just shows how fast Skogstad is going. Hansen is not in any way giving up the pressure. Gollop is now putting pressure on Hansen. And this is what it looks like behind Skogstad. Look at that acceleration as he puts his foot down and accelerates away. Gollop looking left, Gollop looking right. I think it's fair to say, you know, that Skogstad's car is probably one of the slower cars in the field, which is why they're all bunched up, and it really does show how important a good start is. I thought Gollop was going to go through there, and of course, especially here in Portugal, a good start's important where you come onto the loose straight after that fast start, finish straight in the right-hander. Anyway, Skogstad out in front, Hansen second, Gollop just puffing up a little bit of blue smoke on braking there. And these three now starting to pull away from the rest of the field. The rest of the field being Squibb, who's just coming around that left-hander now and into the sort of chicane bit. And Jean-Luc Payet still up the back there. Oh, they are trying so hard, aren't they? They come through there beautifully in unison. Hansen still not relieving that pressure at all. We've seen how pressure pays off here at this circuit. Braking a little bit later, pushing a little bit harder on acceleration. Will Gollop keeping out of trouble, still looking left and right. He's surely going to get past Hansen, but he's going to be very wary of those curbs. So Skogstad, oh, Skogstad just touched, not the curb, a little bit of a bank there, and nearly rolled it over, but he hung on to it brilliantly. And now he's just got to maintain composure a little bit now. But Hansen isn't going to allow him to do that. He's challenging again. What an aggressive bulldog Hansen is. All the time. We're on the last lap now, and they're going hell for leather. Skogstad has found some extra from somewhere, puts his foot down and pulls away from Hansen. An extraordinary bit of driving. The extra adrenaline from that up and nearly over has given Skogstad a little bit of extra over Hansen. Gollop, I think, looks as if he's almost settled for third place there. And Skogstad now warily through that section this time round, but Hansen can find no way round him at all. He'll wait until they come onto the start-finish straight and give it everything he's got just to maybe take him on the line, but no way. A bit battered, but ecstatic. And Hansen, well, he'll wonder how on earth he didn't manage to get past Skogstad. How on earth Skogstad didn't relinquish to his pressure. And there's Gollop. Well, he did his best. Consistent performance from Gollop so far this season. I'm sure he'll be pleased with that. So, confirmation of those results there. Barry Squibb ended up in fourth. Jean-Luc Payet, after a back row start, ended up at the back of the field. Martin Skank, of course, will never forget his weekend in Portugal. Neither will Bjorn Skogstad. Tremendous scenes of emotion. And here comes Susan Bergvall to embrace and congratulate Bjorn Skogstad. I don't know what Kenneth Hansen will say about that. 2 seasons completely devoid of any wins for Bjorn Skogstad, and here he is atop the podium in Portugal, opening the champagne and starting to live out some of those dreams that he must have had when he started on the Rallycross circuit. The crowd now gathering around as the climax of the day. And we have a look at our standings with Jean-Luc Payet up in front with 20 points and 12 from this particular meeting. Kenneth Hansen in second place, Bjorn Skogstad now third in the standings. Will Gollop fourth, Barry Squibb. A lot of predictions didn't come true, and a lot of surprises did this week in Portugal. We'll be back with the third round of the European Rallycross Championship from France next week.